The symbols, Mason, what do they mean? They were hidden amongst the trailer in short blips. Do they mean humans and carriers are greater than the infected? Does the dot represent the rage virus infecting the body? Does the cult of rage believe we all need to be infected to test who is worthy in the next step of human evolution? Are those that fully turn dregs and rejects and thus lesser beings? Are the uninfected only greater because of their potential to be immune or carriers? What are the symbols, Mason? What do they mean? Or it might just be Pigpen code decrypted to the password Memento Mori for the Rage Leaks website, where we can get Cloverfield-esque lore drops up to the film's release. So maybe they don't mean anything, or maybe they mean everything. Think of the theories. We are just 2 months away from the long-awaited third film in the 28 franchise. 18 years later and the wait is almost over, and we have been graced with the bloody double whammy. A teaser for the second trailer of waiting 28 hours for the 28 years later second trailer. 28 hours later, I see what they did there. The teaser being a culmination of the classic blood-red biohazard symbol, now made of countless amounts of red skulls. Again to the tune of Rudyard Kipling's 1915 poem Boots. Jarring and jolted imagery barely trickling in the erraticness of the rage infected, definitely capturing the rapid camera work, sporadic energy, and inability to keep the infected in sight to emulate their convulsions, shaking, and rabies-like behavior, much like the first movie. Seeing these shots just bolt in when we only get like half a second, so we have to sit there and comb through and screenshot just to get something that does feel like 28 days later. Now, while I loved 28 weeks later, its tonal shift definitely went towards more action and to feel like a larger production. Here, just the teaser, and as we get into it later, the trailer alone gets back to the sheer uneasy feeling, raw footage, and depressing brutal tone of 28 days later, not knowing what is going on. Now that's not surprising with Danny Boyle and Alex Garland being both back at the forefront, especially with the night vision camera angle of seeing some infected in the dark feeling like found footage, as that has been stated that they have shot all of this on iPhone 16 Pros. The blood-soaked information drips in more as we go from the first trailer that avoided showing any infected up close, and then blast us in the face with the iconic dilated red eyes. The primal looking faces of the infected attacking, them all looking gray, dead, and dilapidated, running through bright and vibrant grassy fields akin to the opening of 28 weeks later. And of course, the shots of the malnourished, what I assume is an infected dude that looks like Cillian Murphy, but has been confirmed that it is in fact not Jim. There is a lot that is being thrown at us that brings up more questions than answers. Now, there is definitely something about the imagery and the idea behind all these red skulls, not just as the most obvious symbol of death and illness, but we have seen in the previous trailer mountains of skulls being gathered by what can only be a cult of the rage. The mask we've seen before near the end reminds us that there is a secondary threat. Being overwhelmed with visuals of the rage-infected we've been waiting to feast our eyes on, juxtaposed with an intelligent threat that we have barely even seen that is behind the scenes. We got that bald guy, maybe he's one of the leaders, but we have two people laying low to the ground to avoid some kind of explosion or fire. There is a lot of crossfire going on. Now, it has been stated that the rage outbreak stayed within limited borders. Civilized society with developed tech and weaponry still exists out in the broader world, with our movie's focus being on a remote island that is connected via a fading natural bridge on the coast of people surviving in a settlement, which leads us into the second trailer dropped yesterday. Starting off in a pitch-dark tunnel with armed men in tactical gear slowly walking through, possibly deployed here as recon from a different country to get information on the growing threat of the virus, the cult, and or news of changing infected, only for them to be blindsided by a roided out rage jockey. I mean, this dude is swole, veins popping, biceps pulsing, but what gets me the most about this scene is how this Adonis was able to sucker punch this trio of armed people without any any warning catching them off guard. The infected have been known for a long time to just Leroy Jenkins themselves at anything that does not share their blood, with all the noise of growling, gurgling, and loud steps leading up to them running full sprint at their target, kind of like the tunnel scene in 28 Days Later, where Jim's group could hear a horde of them rapidly approaching from around the corner and react accordingly. Here, no. Dead silence outside the heavy breathing of the armed individuals, until one of them is grabbed by Rage-Sen Momoa. And this is more than we have seen the Rage-Infected do before, not only in the sense that they have the capacity to sneak up on people, but in the sense of their brutality. Rage-Infected have usually been shown to vomit, bite, punch, kick, and maim a person to get the job of infection, or more so, death across. But here, the kill feels more personal and geared towards outright slaughtering a target. The Berserker snags him by what can be assumed to be the roof of his mouth as we hear the sound of ripping and tearing through flesh, most likely being a death similar to how the bloater kills people in The Last of Us. It reminded me of Dawn in the beginning of 28 Weeks Later. After he was infected, he proceeded to dig his fingers into his wife's eye sockets before pummeling her, showing more of an aptitude to kill in the fastest way possible by jamming your thumb into the brain of a target or ripping off the head, but also to retain some sort of intelligence to combat healthy survivors. Dawn was able to hide, go for the quickest kill, and silently pursue targeted individuals. And the big guy here is doing some of the same, but even more so. There is a change in the infected. Some of us may not want to hear it, but a virus like this that infects so quickly, mutating over the course of nearly 3 decades, is very well possible. And unless the Berserker here was freshly infected, I don't see how a Rage virus recipient can keep such a physique, since most, if not all of the infected, are so shriveled and starved looking. It's also possible within the cult lying in the shadows that those that are immune or can be carriers of the virus without fully turning are using the Rage's influence to bolster themselves. The Roid Rager could be a carrier of that, being a good example. Thanks to the Rage virus getting rid of his pain inhibitors has made his workout regimen ungodly to where his strength is superhuman, with the cult assuming that the Rage virus itself is the next step in human evolution that must be administered to the populace to filter out the weak. Now, why would I skip to this cult stuff when we have a plethora of infected scenes to gawk at and be hyped for? Well, showing maps and aerial views of what's called Holy Island, we see target practice dummies with a visage similar to the masks of these cult followers, deeming them targets that must be regularly practiced to kill on sight. A man's voice is heard saying that there are so many out there, infected and non-infected alike. Long-range weapons in a fortress built not only to keep out the Rage infected, but the Rage carriers. Restricting its inhabitants from leaving the island, as leaving means no help or rescue will come in the mainlands dominated by the tainted blood, but they still need to get supplies and see what is out there. Going out means ravenous infected swarming you at a moment's notice. And, well, the Rage virus infected have not changed a bit when it comes to their simpler forms, but it's also what we are expecting. What can come from a virus that kills off its host from malnutrition, exhaustion, starvation, and dehydration within 28 days? Well, there are those that carry the virus with nefarious and diluted intent. Outside forces of armed soldiers attempt to come into the mainland of Britain only to be met with swift and unexpected assault from above that kills and or infects them all, looking like they are both attacked from above by intelligent carriers and using mindless infected as drones to also attack, inducting, murdering, or infecting anyone that dares enter the Rage-addled lands. We return to the holy site of mountains of skulls and pillars of bones with the bald man at night speaking to a survivor saying this:
"There are many kinds of death,"
followed by shots of the Berserker acting completely different than any infected before, even using what appears to be a melee weapon to assault one of the armed troops to kill them. What looks like fights amongst the sea barrier between two intelligent entities, ended by a priest accepting the Rage pandemic as a day of judgment and embracing himself being attacked and infected, as if he is ascending, his eyes reddening, blood pouring from his mouth, willingly allowing this almost demonic-like presence to win and take over. But why? What do I, and possibly the trailer, mean by all this? For there to be other kinds of death, for there to be an ascension, especially with that whole symbol rant at the beginning of the video. Well, tucked away within the second trailer are very quick snippets that go from left to right on the screen individually on the bottom. Going from the left, do we have drawings of people that reside on the island, 2 of which have squares with nothing inside them. The furthest left of these symbols being that of an open square with a dot inside. Finally, at the end, showing a masked cult follower with a complete square and a dot within over that image. In the middle is the greater than symbol facing towards these aforementioned individuals. On the right, the lesser than section are illustrations of infected before showing actual fully infected, as we see incomplete squares all having dots within them, ending with a half square and no dot. What kind of cryptic conspiracy theories are we cooking up here? My hypothesis is that the dot represents the rage virus. The square symbolizes the intelligent human. Incomplete squares either mean someone who was infected or has fully turned and lost all semblance of humanity, and the half square with no dot meaning complete death, as no virus or humanity is left. These symbols, laid out in this order, mixed with the scenes they are laid on top of, represent the views of this hidden away cult, how they view the human population, those that have never been exposed to the virus, and those that are carriers or immune to the virus are greater than those that have become infected but lost their minds and souls, or those that have died, bringing new meaning to that saying earlier of there being many ways to die. The only example of the complete square and dot is overlaid with the cult member. They retain their humanity and being complete, yet still have the rage virus within them, the next step in evolution, and how this cult is trying to forcefully admit those that haven't been subjugated to the pathogen's influence, how those not polluted with rage are simply vessels waiting to be infected. They view carrying the virus and using its changes to the body as the next step, hence the Roid Man being such a beast but retaining ways to kill so quickly, stealthing around, and using tools. The priest allowing himself to be swarmed to see if he is worthy of judgment. The fact that it's already confirmed that 28 years later we'll get a sequel next year named Bone Temple really emphasizes the point of these symbols too. The cult is obviously intentionally infecting any healthy person they can get their hands on. Those that fully turn and don't have the genetic makeup to carry on will be mindless drones, ones that possibly do not target carriers and that the cult can use to attack others. But these fully infected cannot eat, sleep, or drink, and will die out in a given amount of time. This cult will take the dead infected and repurpose their bones to be used as religious monuments, the skulls being that of all the countless infected that have accumulated over the years, and the sacrifices their bodies made to help the cult reach their goals of ascension. Hence why in the teaser, every single skull is red and compromising the biohazard symbol, and hence why there are still infected roaming around 28 years later. It wouldn't make sense for them to still be going about. The cult hunts down the healthy and keeps track of anyone that dares enter the mainlands of Britain, as we saw with the troops or any outside forces and nations that tried to figure this all out. The Holy Island being the holy grail of deciding humanity's fate between these two warring factions, weeding out the rest of the healthy or determining if the cult of carriers will overtake it all, and why the battles will be bloodier, more explosive. Holy crap, that was an explosive bolt and he just blew that guy up. That was so cool. But it's all going to be bigger than before, still retaining the essence of the first movie with some semblance of weeks later, all surrounded by the nightmare of the rage virus and it's infected. Or I should say infected. And hey, as I'm wrapping up this analysis, they released this last bit of information.
What they look like? Are they similar to anything in the animal kingdom? What would they be similar to?
Oh, I guess we're getting a bunch of Batman, I don't know, but that's ideas for another day and another video. As me and Chaga were putting this together, we discovered that there was a promotional campaign leaking lore and information on the Rage virus outbreak. As of now, it's mostly discussion. When you type in the password Memento Mori on the Rage Leaks website, you get 2 posts that I'm sure there will be more coming out as time progresses. One of these posts being aerial pictures of the coast, and the second, a singular message stating this: the virus brought us more than rage, the sorrow for our lost home, the guilt for the ones we left behind, the righteous indignation for the secrets being kept from us. It's been almost 28 years since the outbreak, and still not a single shred of truth about what's really going on. They say it's to protect us. It's for our own good. After all this time, what are they still hiding? They classify satellite images. They forbid any communication with survivor communities. They suppress rumors and discredit reports that somehow the infected have adapted. They do not want us to see, but we must bear witness, all of us. So some of my theories actually kind of make sense, that we have the carriers working with the infected to really make this kind of religious sect. Even if the decrypted message is way off from what I even stated, I still think a lot of the theories that I brought up are kind of valid, and I guess the only way we can really decide if I'm right or wrong is to see. That about wraps up another scatterbrained look into what 28 years later is offering us until June. What do you think? Where do you hypothesize the franchise, infection, and people are heading towards? If you're watching from the future, did I get anything right or way wrong? Let's get arguing, discussing in the comments. Thanks for watching, and special shout out to my Patreon patrons and YouTube channel members who are featured on this list here. Big thanks to Chago, aka Quick Flicks, for putting this together on short notice. He has been the best. And if you want to support the channel and get something out of it, head to gamersubs.com and use my personal code WOW at checkout for 10% off your order. If I get enough products sold, they'll let me have my own flavor and waifu cup. I'm hoping to make my own Left 4 Dead inspired version of both. Until next time, I'm Zackass, aka Wow Such Gaming. Stay happy, stay healthy, don't get any rage, and stay wow.